Hi, Brigitte. How are you? Brigitte's story is going to emerge as we chat in a while, but she's one of the top producers in. We're going to talk a little bit about the soil types, how the vineyards were acquired, and particular one parcel. Now, I'm aware that this is a bit naughty of me, but I've been sent a bottle of this. This is the wine that we're mostly going to talk about today. You're not drinking it, I'm sorry, but I am, and it's delicious, so really good. So the Domaine de Cévennes, and this is your Belle Lurette, yeah? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I think at the start, you should just tell us how you ended up in the Languedoc, because you're from Bordeaux, aren't you? What's a Bordelaise doing in food?
Well, I'm a Bordelaise and from a family of when my parents always taught me to drink good wines, and it remains in my blood in one way or another. And at the time, I've been always working in the wine trade for a long while, but always with the purpose of producing one day my own wine. And little by little, everything evaluated. And from the thoughts I could do some wine in Bordeaux, I happened to think a bit further and to refine my project.
You're the opposite of Jacques Lurton, who was saying that a wine in Argentina tasted as if it came from the Languedoc. But Jacques Lurton made wine in the Languedoc, didn't he? So.
Yes. So I make wine in the Languedoc. Yeah. And my approach was the creation of a wine of an estate, and necessarily it was rather this creation of a vineyard was rather something difficult to custom. And so I created little by little.
Because you started with what, 2.5 hectares in what year?
Yes, now it's 11 hectares.
Yeah. And when did you start? When was your first 2.5 hectares?
I started, first hectares was 2007, almost 15 years ago. And I think it was a very good thing that I started at this time in the Languedoc. There were some places that, and I was told that in Fougères, as such, there were some nice places I could work with. And so my project, my target was different than the one from any cooperative. Wine growers who bring their berries to the CAF cooperative and couldn't give a good value to their own vines. My luck was that the plots that interested me were free to be bought, and also my luck was that as I gradually built up this estate, it's allowed me to refine my vision and my strategy, and to adapt, chasing one plot and not another one, etc. So to stick as much as possible to the idea, the dream I had in my head, and the type of wine I wanted to produce.
It's interesting what you said. You said that the plots you wanted were available. Is that because they were old? I mean, very often you find in France people say, oh, it's a bit old, but nobody wants that. You get the same thing all over the world, I think, Spain especially. Were the ones you wanted old?
Some of them were old, some were not, but they were all in strategic places, 100 meter high in altitude, and most of them were facing to the north, facing to the dominant wind from the Parc Naturel of Languedoc. And I believe that this would help me producing wine with more balance. And this type of plots of parcels are not very interesting for normal wine growers, because sometimes they don't ripe as much as they would like, especially if the yield are bigger. And to me, it was quite the contrary. It was very interesting because the maturity, the ripeness was long to arrive and good for the balance in the wine.
Yeah, no, very, very interesting. Somebody's told me off. Jacques has taken his comment back since then. He's a dear friend. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine too. We're only joking, Laura.
Okay.
Tell us about Fougères, because Fougères, I mean, for those of you who don't know the Languedoc, I mean, I think the Languedoc is an amazing region and very undervalued still, I think. You know, it's one of Fougères is one of the great appellations, along with maybe, I don't know, anything else we would add in there. I mean, lots of them, but I think tomorrow we're going to be talking a little bit about Fitou and also over the border into the Roussillon. Tell us about Fougères, because it's very special in terms of soil, especially, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. The typicity of the soil of Fougères is 100% schist or shale schist soil. And it's quite a typicity opposite to that of limestone, chalky terroir. It's quite typical, and it's quite rare because you don't find that many schist soil in the wine world. It's one of the less present schist soil in the wine world. It's really very difficult to find. And to me, it has a lot of energy and interest to produce wine on this soil.
Yeah, and just tell us about your. It's a fascinating story about your, which is this Belle Lurette, which are, I think, your oldest vines, aren't they? And just how you came to buy it, because it's a lovely sort of French provincial story in a way. I love it.
Yes, it's something I could not have expected to find in my life. I mean, this beautiful parcel of vines was just close to other vines I already purchased by chance. It was close. And I was always looking at them and hoping that one day the owner would retire. And so every year I went and visited him and said, if you are once in a time selling your vines for any reason, perhaps you retire, which was the case, and would you please sell me your vines? They were beautifully planted on the top of a hill where we now have our cellar and where we live. And he was it was obvious to him that if somebody would buy this parcel of vines, they would have pulled them up because for many reasons. And he was desesperated because himself, he knew the parcel of these vines. He has always known this parcel of vines. He harvested these vines when he was at the age of 11 or 10.
And they were probably planted by his grandfather or something, were they?
Probably, yes. He cannot tell me, but he said it must be at least 70 years ago, at least, but probably more. I don't know. You know, in France, we had no register. I mean, it's maybe not common, not only in France, but at the time we had no register of what we planted and at what time exactly. So it's just the say of the ex-owners, which is nice as well.
And he comes back to the vineyard still, didn't he? You tell me he comes and sits in the vineyard because he's so happy that you kept them, right?
I told him, I would like really very much to do something with these vines. I hope I can. I mean, I don't know in advance, but this is my wish. And he was released to see that I didn't put them up. And so now from time to time, he comes with his sister and they like sitting in the middle of the vines or close to the little mazet, the stone house. And we drink a glass of Belle Lurette and we talk about the vines. He looks very happy, perhaps, that they like doing that. And he told me the story because I told him, these vines the yield are very low, and this is just my way to a constat, just to say how life is. And he told me, but in the times it used to give a lot of berries, and even we were able to make 2 vendanges, 2 harvests at the same year. One for
he must have been selling to the cooperative, was it?
Exactly, one for the co-op, and another one decided together with the co-op where they had late harvest, and they made this late harvest wine, which was for him, he was very proud about it.
Yeah. And what state was the vineyard in when you bought in 2011? I mean, you said that you used to look at it and think it looked beautiful, but what did you change? Because you have a specific way of working, don't you?
Yes, it was not in a good state, I would say. This is difficult to work, so it's a kind of an excuse, but it's really a good example to see how old vines can react, can rebirth when you are doing the right thing to help them to get again vigor and
what's that to do with? Is it how you prune? Is it so you're adding, I don't know, I mean, mulch?
It's a lot of many different gests. We have to pay attention to a lot of things. The pruning, of course, because the pruning was not exactly, it had a lot of pruning play de taille of
there's wounds, pruning wounds, that we've talked about.
Once, and so this was one of the first thing that we apply to make sure that the sap could circulate, and also to fertilize a bit the places, to pay attention to work with the grass cover. Not too much, not too and enough. We even have some mutton, sheep coming in the vineyard each year that can just eat the small quantity necessary, but not too much here also.
Do they eat berries, or they more eat leaves? Leaves, I hope, right?
They must not eat berries, it's forbidden.
Because wild boar, sanglier, eat berries, don't they?
They do, yes. Yet not there, we are just living around, and I would stand up at night if things were bad. I could hear them. No, it's okay. No, so far, no sanglier, no wild boar.
Just tell us a little bit. I mean, I know Derek's watching from Maule, where Carignan is an increasingly respected grape variety in Chile. But would it be fair to say in France it doesn't have a great reputation, Carignan? Tell us about the image of Carignan.
Yes, alors the phylloxera has erased the wine, or the wine memory of Languedoc at a time. And the reconstruction of the vineyard has favored the massive plantation or the introduction of the star of the moment, which were Carignan. So
it didn't exist, really.
It had very often the image of a very productive cepage varietal, because it was planted in fertile areas. It had a limited maturity, a very big yield. I dare not telling about the yield.
Oh, go on, tell us.
No, well, 250 hectoliters per hectare, I was told, but I can't even imagine that.
And how much do you make from your plot? How many hectoliters per hectare?
I dare not as well. 15
hectoliters with these old vines, as opposed to 250 if you're...
No, I'm not. I'm sure they never gave 250.
Now.
Those planted in the plains, but we are here on very attractive, very good quality hills that anyway never gave so many as 250 hectoliters.
So with low yields and in the right place, it's almost a different variety, right?
Right. Yeah. That could be, and really, this is a complexity of many different components, with its schist soil and hillside and no plain, no big yields, and northern orientation. All of that can bring to Carignan a plus, and then of course to all the old vine of Carignan.
Yeah. And is this wine, is this a pure Bellurette in French means il y a des siècles, yeah? So centuries ago, in the past, exactly. A long time ago, yeah? The little expression, yeah.
That's right. It sticks to the matter. I mean, because it's always, you never know how specific. It's not a very mathematic information. It's very vague. And so it's exactly what it is for me. Planted before 1950, but then how long? And that is, well, it sounds nice in French and easy to remember of, etc. But
is this 100% Carignan? Just Carignan?
Bellurette is almost 100% Carignan. It's 85% Carignan. It's a blend with some Grenache and Mourvèdre as well.
I mean, so I'm sorry that all of you can't taste it. One day we'll be able to pour wine in a computer and everybody will be able to smell it or something like that. I don't know, but it's delicious wine, and it's very elegant. I think. I mean, I think Sarah said at the beginning, just the finesse of this wine is remarkable. When you think that Carignan's reputation is a basic red wine, it's lovely. Yeah.
Thank you. To me, Schists has the advantage, the assets of really letting the Carignan express itself. If Carignan is in big yield, in the bad places, it can be rustic and very heavy, not interesting to taste, but with very little yield. You have this freshness, this juicy style energy from the soil.
We're talking a little bit about marketing now, because you were ahead of your time in a way. You started doing this sponsorship model, parrainage. It was what we call that, a kind of godparent model, really. And just tell us a little bit about how that came about, with Ken Payton coming there to do his very famous documentary. Producer Ken Payton, who came to the Languedoc, didn't he?
Yes. All my project of Adopt a Vine started when I met Ken Payton, he's a movie maker and documentarist, and at the occasion of his film At Seben, he wanted to reveal the truth of the Languedoc through the creativity and dynamism and the dedication of the terroir from 12 wineries, and among them.
So he made a documentary about the Languedoc, didn't he?
Yeah, he made a documentary.
What's it called?
Les terroiristes du Languedoc, in French.
A pun on the word terroir and terrorist, right?
Voilà. Oui, it could have been. No, it was not terroriste.
No.
But we are all very much involved in this dynamic. So, right. And when 2012, he arrived at Seben, and I presented him the vines, the Carignan vines. He had many shots of these places, of this specific place. And I told him, and here are my old ladies. And it was just something spontaneous, And so I thought I just bought the parcel 2011, 1 year ago. It was quite new, and for me. And I had the idea, how could I do something with this old ladies concept and connect people, wine lovers, with this place. This is how it started.
And so you have a club, really, do you, of people who buy this wine specifically, don't they?
Yes, we would have to give a definition to a club. French people, it's not necessary. Well, it could be a club. That's to say, I propose the sponsorship of these old vines, only these old vines, to visitors, wine lovers, people whom I am in contact with, and to offer them for many reasons. It's not an economical reason at the basis, at the start, and not even now. The subscription are so low, and it's just.
Tell us about, how does the subscription work? Because people get paid in wine, don't they? They pay a certain amount of money and get bottles, right?
Exactly. They pay for 3 years, the sponsorship during 3 years. That costs 55 euros for one vine stock. And in return, you get a bottle of wine of your own vine stock per year. But you notice
you get
that
three bottles for 55 euros.
I need more than one vine stock to produce one bottle of wine anyway. So it's not very economically rentable, but it's not the purpose of it.
It's interesting. You were saying to me, a lot of the people who are part of this project of the Adopt a Vine are not French. You said that it's almost like, it's like they want to own a bit of France, when you say.
Exactly. I think they want to have a piece of France with them. They have a kind of a certificate of parrain, marraine, or godfather, godmother of this vine stock. And I think most of them are from foreign countries. Swedish people, I had the visit of them this weekend, of some of them this weekend, for example. Or British, Switzerland, Belgium, etc., but also French people. Most of them have a link already to France. Either they have a holiday house or family living there after they retired, and maybe they give a certificate, a sponsorship to their grandchildren or children, and it's quite a link. And this is exactly what I wanted to make, a link between the generations. In any way, the past generation the future, the generation to come, and the present generation.
I like that idea of a link between the generations, not just the generations of vines in a way, or people who own the vineyard, but actually the human beings who are involved with the wine in all senses. I mean, drinking it as much as anything, as well as making it. I want to just tell us a couple more things. One thing I want to know about, do you treat these old vines differently in the cellar? When you vinify them, are they very different from your other parcels? Because you've got, what, 11 hectares now. I don't know, how many parcels do you have in total?
I have several different parcels of Carignan as well, and we have to treat them, of course, in a specific way. All must be done very softly with the, how could I say? Of course, there is not one method, except that we have to care to give the most attention in order to express the terroir. Yeah. So we pay attention to the extraction. It must not be too violent, too brutal.
Are you doing pigeage, not pump over?
We do pigeage from times to times. We do pump over, but there is not a recipe. It is depending from one year to the other. We might decide to either do pigeage or not, to wait a little while, to let macerating in a subtle way, very discreet way, to make sure to highlight every nuances of the wines.
I want to ask you a more general question, really, to finish with, about old vines and the future they could play in the Languedoc. I mean, I've been writing about the Languedoc for 25, 30 years, and I always think the Languedoc should be better known. You know, the best wines of the Languedoc are incredible. They're some of the best wines in France and the world. What role can old vines play in getting the message to people?
Right.
Do you think there's a role there?
I agree with you that it's the Languedoc's time now. The Languedoc's time is now. It's really now. It's arriving. It's coming. To me, old vines, and especially Carignan vines, I explain that to my visitors, that when they come to be godfather, godmother, it's really Carignan vines are the future of Languedoc. They used to be from the past with this bad image, or not suitable image for the actual current consumption. But to me, all vines are for human reason. As you said, this links between generation, and also because they can probably show us what we can do. They are more, these old Carignan vines are so resilient and so reactive toward drought or sécheresse, drought. Or lack of water. It's really impressive. These are the ones which withdraw the most the heat stress of all my vines at Cévennes.
What would your rainfall be in Fougères a year? Do you know, in millimeters?
I don't know. No, I would say rubbish. I'm sorry. I would say something wrong. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's dry. But this is dry farmed. I mean, would it be legal to irrigate the vineyard in Fougères, even with drip irrigation?
No, we are not allowed to do, and even if it were possible, I would not do. I mean, it would be silly to me to dilute these good drops of future wine in the vines. I would never do that. I mean, Fougères and the schist soil is the soil which can express the more naturally varietals such as Carignan or such as Grenache. Really, it would be silly to water them and to do something in that direction.
This interesting paradox, isn't there? A lot of the Carignan was planted after phylloxera. I mean, when was phylloxera in the Languedoc? Sort of 1890s, probably?
Well, 1990, exactly 96 or something.
Yeah. So 1896 probably arrived. So the end of the 19th century, and then when they replanted, a lot of what they planted was Carignan, which means that a lot of the oldest vines are Carignan, right?
Exactly, but maybe it was something that they didn't know in advance, that we had to face these climatic troubles but it was really one of the best varietal to plant and arrive at a good age now, good age, which means 70, 60, 50 or age.
I just wonder whether, you know, I hope Derek's still watching from Chile, that there's an organization in Maule called Vigno, and they're very much focused on old vine Carignan. I wonder if there could be some sort of connection between you guys in the Languedoc, the people, you know, the people who make Carignanissime, your wine, maybe a little conference once we can all travel again, or you know, where there's a connection between old vine, maybe Carignan also in northern Spain, you know, in Carignana.
We could be also, oh sorry, we could do also a good connection with the association called Carignan Renaissance.
Fantastic.
Which is a gathering of many of us here in the Languedoc and Roussillon, with very clever wine growers as well, and I'm sure they would like this idea.
Okay, so Sarah, I think we could use that. Carignan Renaissance with Vigno, and maybe get some Spaniards involved as well. Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah, for looking at it. I was going to say 300 millimeters. It's 365 millimeters. I'm not saying in your vineyard, but roughly. So it's pretty dry, isn't it? You know, you can see that these old vines, and Carignan is quite a hardy plant. It's not irrigated, you know, rarely irrigated in Maule as well. A lot of these vines in the Secano Interior, as they call it in Chile, is a dry farm. Same thing. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah,
somebody says per year. Is that April to September? Not sure. I don't know. Somebody else has given me the figure. That's from Sarah.
Let me check it up. Let me check it. It looked like a reasonable source, but I've just quickly searched. So bear with me.
Thank you, Brigitte. Amazing to see you. I love your wine. And next time I'm in Fougères, coming to see you.
Please do.
I'm already a parrain of one old vine. Maybe I'll get another one.
Très bien.
We'll have more vines than